Let's face it, most people aren't making massive turkey feasts on the regular. And after 364 days of not thinking about it, it can be hard to get that bird just right. That's where Instacart, the holiday rescue app, comes in. From getting all the ingredients to prep a full seasonal spread to getting last-minute swaps in a turkey emergency, Instacart has everything a holiday host needs to save face and save dinner. And right now, if you download Instacart, you'll get free delivery on your first 3 orders and delivery in as fast as 1 hour. Offer valid for a limited time. $10 minimum per order. Additional terms apply.
Hey, Commanders fans. Headed to the game December 31st? Take Metro for just $2, then join us for some tailgating fun. We'll have live bands, games, and giveaways galore. Plus, if you switch to mobile wallet there, you'll be entered for a chance to win a special raffle. Find us at the Morgan Boulevard Station or in Lot G at FedEx Field between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. Skip the traffic, skip the parking. Take Metro to the game December 31st. Learn more at WMATA.com.
This is the Bob and Jeff Show on 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
We are joined by Vahe Gregorian from the Kansas City Star. He sat through that game yesterday in Kansas City, the loss to the Las Vegas Raiders. And Vahe, welcome. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for the blast from the past with Martha Hoople. Not Martha Hoople, as some might have thought it was back in the day.
That might have been me. So let me ask you this. I'm going to cite myself. Every week I say to myself, because we make picks on this show with the odds, and I say to myself, okay, this is a week the Chiefs figure it out. This is a week they step on the gas, they finally explode, they bury somebody, and everything returns to normal. But week after week, that doesn't happen. In fact, you could make the argument that it gets worse and more sluggish offensively for this team. What's going on?
Well, it's like the old riddle inside an enigma, inside the mystery, or however I think Churchill put it. It is really puzzling, and I know there's a lot of sort of popular, I'll call them conspiracy theories, although I'm not sure some of them don't have a little traction, but I hear a lot from readers that say, it's a team with too many off-field distractions. They're doing too many commercials. Taylor Swift. It's Eric Bieniemy not there. It's Super Bowl hangover. I can imagine scenarios where you might plug in some of that, but it strikes me more as we've got a mystery looking for a solution that we can't put a finger on, and because it really on its surface doesn't make sense. I mean, I get that the receiving core isn't what anybody would want it to be. On the other hand, really, Rashee Rice has had about as good a season as Juju Smith-Schuster did last year, and it's basically the same cast of characters. So it's sort of stupefying. But to your biggest point there, Bob, you watch this team now and you feel like where's the trap door instead of having faith that something's gonna just work out. For the longest time, really, virtually ever since Patrick Mahomes took over as QB1, the Chiefs would be down, even double digits in the fourth quarter, and you'd almost think that's great. They've got them just where they want them because they always find a way. And now, really, I do feel like you're at a point where it's like you almost are expecting something to go wrong in the crucible, and they keep doing it over and over. Even I saw what I thought were some semi-promising signs against New England. But even when I was writing about that, I remember feeling like, well, if they lose to the Raiders, that'll be like one step up and 2 steps back. And that's kind of what it is. It's quicksand. You can't put your really sense of faith in anything just now.
So how much blame, if any, do you put on Patrick Mahomes? Because it just doesn't look like he's throwing the ball with nearly as much confidence as he used to. Do you think that he's concerned with making a mistake because the margin of error is so small? Does he not trust the receiving core? What do you think it is with Patrick Mahomes?
I think it's elements of all of that. I mean, I wrote about Patrick yesterday off the game and sort of with the emphasis on this is what happens when a generational talent starts to doubt what's around him. Because, look, he's not playing as well, and there may be some glitch in his game that's just there anyway. But it's pretty evident to me anyway that when you can't even have faith in your ability to have a second to throw the ball when the line's breaking down like it did yesterday, and then you don't know who's going to catch it or be in the right place, which seems to still be the case a lot, then you start doing things differently, right? You start trying to make something happen instead of letting it happen. And there's a fine line in that, where you know that delicate difference between, okay, I can create this versus I'm really jamming this in there and just hoping. And so you saw him run. I think that was a season high number of runs for him yesterday. But what I noticed about it, he was fairly effective too. But what I noticed about it was he was not really trying to extend the plays the way he normally would. I mean, as much as he ran around hoping a play would bust loose and somebody would get open, it became, I thought, notable as the game went on that he might see somebody downfield and just decide he's not throwing to them. And I think there's a central trust issue here at this point with him thinking, I don't know who's going to catch this ball or who's going to be where they're supposed to be. Sounds ridiculous this far into a season, but I think some of his habits are diminishing because of that.
Vahe Gregorian, our guest, sports columnist for the Kansas City Star, highly decorated sports columnist. I want to throw that in there. So where does this thing go? I know that nobody's given up on this season. The talent's still there. Maybe something can be unlocked. I understand all that. But I have to believe that the Chiefs are going to take a real look at this offense in the offseason. How dramatic do you expect some of the changes to be? Certainly Patrick Mahomes is the guy, and he's the guy for as long as he wants to be the guy. But what do they do around him?
Well, look, that's a great question. And, what's really curious and sort of wacky about this is I think this might be what you thought would happen last season when Tyreek Hill was gone and they're kind of, replacing him by committee. And it didn't happen last season. As it happens, you guys may remember, they won the Super Bowl last year. So that's what's really, really odd about this to me. So I think, obviously, you're right, Bob. The way you phrased it is I think, entirely correct. They're going to have to run some diagnostics and really be honest with themselves about what's gone awry. The problem, from my perspective, is I'm not sure my headlights get that far as to why it's this way, right? We can all see what it looks like, but let's just speak to one of the things you hear people say. Well, they missed Eric Bieniemy was holding people accountable, and they're missing the discipline. With all due respect to Eric Bieniemy, I don't think that it's suddenly the Lazy K Ranch there. I think that there are coaches trying to hold people accountable. There's some element of detail missing. I don't know why, but I can't fill in that gap as to why it's that way, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I don't know what kind of internal self-scout audits they're doing of themselves right now, but it's incumbent on them to they may not want to explain it to us, but they got to heal themselves here, or they're going to squander more than a season of the Patrick Mahomes era. And look, I'll go back to what you said. I don't assume anything about how this is going to go from here. I don't assume they're going to bomb in the first round. I certainly don't assume they'll get to the Super Bowl, but I think you've got more to doubt than to believe in at this point. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they have not lost many December games before this season in the Mahomes era, other than maybe one Bengals game. That might have even been in January that year. They lost to him in the playoffs as well. And the bigger point I'm making is they have trended into momentum late in the season. Now they've lost 5 of the last 8, 3 of the last 4, and they just look like a team that's regressing instead of getting better.
So is there anything tangible to the Bieniemy stuff? Do you see anything that Obviously the receivers dropping a lot of passes, that's not something you can scheme. But is there anything where the Chiefs are lacking from last year? I know Bieniemy doesn't have the familiarity with the personnel in Washington the way he did in Kansas City, but it's not like they're lighting up the scoreboard. So is there anything to that?
I can't say that I see anything tangible to that. I get why people would say it, and I think it's a natural question to try to explore further, right? Because as we sit here talking about, well, what's different? Well, that's different, and whatever that may have led to, I can't pinpoint, but it's quite obviously different. It's not like Matt Nagy hasn't had a nice history on this job, by the way, and not like he's not obviously smart and resourceful. But it is, if you're just saying this doesn't look like the other and what's different about this year, you would say, well, they do have a different offensive coordinator. What's the deal? I can't answer whether that is actually the reason, but it is something that's different.
All right, a couple moments here left with Vahe Gregorian from the Kansas City Star. You mentioned it early, and we're contractually obligated to mention Taylor Swift once per show. So I'm going to take care of that right now. We're going to mention Taylor Swift, and she's kind of just become a part of this Chiefs thing. She's at many of the games. She was there yesterday, obviously dating Travis Kelce. But these are grown guys. I've never dated a pop superstar. What is your thought on this? People who say, and I dismiss it, by the way, but people who say they shouldn't be. Travis Kelce needs to get his priorities straight. What are your thoughts, Vahe?
Well, in all my years of dating pop stars, I will say, no, I'm kidding. Here's the thing that I think is kind of puzzling about that. If she weren't a pop star, would people be saying he shouldn't date anybody? I get that it's in the spotlight and that it's really easy and a little oversimplistic for people to suggest, well, she's just a distraction. I don't know what that means. Travis Kelce's not missing meetings. Travis Kelce's not missing curfew. I don't think Travis is, 17 and unable to think about anything else but her when he's out on the field. I will say it seems to coincide with what I would consider increasingly visible step lost for Travis Kelce. I think it's time to realize that at 34, his best years are behind him. Doesn't mean he doesn't have good years left if that's what he wants, but I do think that this is the first year we've seen him come back to earth a little bit. He can still do some amazing things, and the fact that they don't have other guys getting open, I think probably speaks a little bit to the clamping down of his season. But I think he's not. I think he's missing a little burst that we've seen in the past. And I think that since that coincides with this, it's easy for people to point to that. And I just can't get into that. I just think it's really unfair. And look, maybe I'm wrong. It's happened like 3 times before when I've been wrong. So we'll see. We'll see. But I'm with you, Bob. I feel like it's one of those things people want to blame everything, and I think part of the reason people are blaming so many different things is it's really hard to know how you go from what seemed like very legitimate talk about a repeat and really a dynastic place in NFL history to a team that's not playing well and doesn't look like it likes each other very much. It feels a little bit like a team in turmoil.
Interesting stuff. The Chiefs are as fascinating in these struggles as they were in their conquering of the National Football League. Vahe, we really appreciate your time. It's always a pleasure. Thank you, and Happy New Year.
Yeah, same to you guys, and always a pleasure indeed, and Happy New Year, and thanks a million for having me.
Take care. Vahe Gregorian, one of the best, and he's from the Kansas City Star.
When the whole family comes together to watch the game, nobody wants to miss a second of the action to run to the grocery store. With Instacart, you can get all your weekly groceries in as fast as an hour. Less time shopping means more game time. Let's go. Visit instacart.com to get free delivery on your first 3 orders. Offer valid for a limited time. $10 minimum per order. Additional terms apply.